Hello everyone, this is the ninth video in the Python beginner series, and in this video we will learn about Python's range function. So in Python we have an inbuilt function known as range function, which is used to create a sequence of integers. Now what is a sequence? A sequence is nothing but a group or collection of elements that are ordered in a fixed order. That means the order of the element in a sequence is always fixed. Now coming to the range function. The range function is basically used as follows. First we will write the name of the function range, then in the parentheses we have to give some arguments as we do for all the other functions in Python. So the first argument will be the start value, that is the value with which our sequence will start. The second will be the stop value, that means the last value of our sequence. And the third value will be the step value. Now what is a step value? It is nothing but it is the value or a number the, between two consecutive integers. That means it is a difference between two consecutive integers in a sequence. It can be positive or negative. Now, among all these three arguments, the start and step are default arguments. That means it is not compulsory for a user to define their value or pass their value during a function call. But stop, for the stop argument, we have to specify a value. Now, the default value for start is 0. That means if we do not specify the value of our starting element, then the sequence will start from 0. And then coming to the step argument, it has a step value of +1. That means if we will not specify a step value, then it will be considered as +1 by default. Now there are basically three syntax by which we can create sequence using range function. So the first one is as follows. So first we can say range. Now in the first syntax, we have to only define or we can only define the ending value since other two arguments are default arguments, that is stop and step. So if we say range 5, now what this statement will do is that it will generate a sequence starting from 0 up to 5 but not including 5. Yes, this is the case in Python that the range function will generate a sequence from 0 up to the upper value or the stop value but not including the stop value. So if I press enter here we can see that in spite of getting a sequence of integers as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, we are getting 0 range 0, 5. Now to basically display the elements of a range sequence or the sequence generated by range function, we have to first convert it to some other sequence as tuple or list. For example, if I say L equals list range 5. Now what we are doing here? First we are generating a sequence using range function that is from 0 up to 5 but not including 5, and then using list function that is also a built-in function in Python, we are converting the sequence generated by range function into a list. Now if I press enter and now if I print the value of L, so what we will get here is that, so here we can see that we have got a list that contains integers from 0 to 4 excluding the 5. So here we can see that as we have not specified the starting value, the default value is 0 and the step value is +1. As we move from 1 to 0, there is an increment of 1, and so is the increment as we move from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 and 3 to 4. Now, the second syntax includes specifying the starting value. For example, if I say L1 equals list function, then range. Suppose we want to have a basically sequence that contains integers from 1 to 10, then we can do 1 to 10. But now, if we define the last element as 10, then what will range function do is it will generate a sequence that will contain only element up to 9 since it will exclude the last element. So in spite of 10, we have to define 11 here to get a list or a sequence that will contain elements from 1 to 10. Now if I print the value of L1, here we can see that we have got a basically list, which is also a sequence in Python that contains elements from 1 to 10, starting from 1 up to 10, having a step value of +1. Now, coming to the last and third step, basically syntax that includes specifying the step value also. So for example, if I say L2 equals list range 10, or let us say 11, comma 1, and let us specify -1. Now here we will get a list that will start from 11 and it will go up to 1 excluding 1, and it will have a step value of -1. Now if I press enter and print the value of L2, then here we can see that we have got a list here that contains elements from 11 up to 2. Now since here we have defined a step index of -1, hence as we move from starting of the list to the end of the list, the element will decrease in its value since we have a step value of -1. Now coming to some mistakes that we can often commit while creating sequences using range. For example, if I say L3 equals list range 11, 1, 1. Now, if I print its value L3, here we can see that we are getting a empty list, but we have specified a starting integer, a stop integer, and a step integer. Then why we are getting a empty list here or an empty sequence here? It is so because the problem is with our step value. Here we have given a step value of +1, but our starting value is less than our ending value. Hence, the basically step value should be negative in order to decrease the values. But we are getting a plus value as a step. Sorry, we are getting a +1 as a step value. So there is no way by having a step value of +1 we can go from 11 to 1. Hence the Python will return an empty list or an empty sequence. Now the second thing to keep in mind is that the value of basically step can never be 0. Since if we have a step of 0, so we cannot go back and forth in a sequence by adding or subtracting 0 to our starting value. Hence, if we try to give, for example, a range, a value of a step value of 0, then we will get an error which says that argument 3, that is step argument, should not be 0. Now we can also have negative integers as our stop or end value. For example, if I say L5 equals list range -1 to -10, then -1. Now if I print the value of L5, here we can see that we are getting a sequence of integers starting from -1 up to -9. Since the -10 is the last value, so it will not be included in the sequence. So we are getting a sequence starting from -9 up to, sorry, starting from -1 up to -9, having a step value of -1. Now in the same case, if we try to specify a positive value of our basically of our step value, then we will get an error. For example, -10 +1. So here we can see that basically we are getting a empty list. So we can have integers either positive or negative as our values for stop, start, or step argument. So I think this is all about the range function in Python, and I will end the video here. In the next video, we will talk about Python's for loop and while loop. So if you like the video, make sure to share, subscribe, and like, and I will see you in the next one.